Most people think they'll feel it coming, that there will be some kind of signal, a warning, a moment where the body says something is wrong. But that's not how it works. You can wake up every day feeling fine, go about your routine, eat what you've always eaten, and still have something quietly building inside you. No pain, no fatigue, no obvious symptom. Just a number, slowly rising year after year, almost easy to ignore. And then one day, it matters. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but in a way that reflects years of silent change. Now imagine something different. Imagine going back for your next blood test just 8 weeks from now, expecting the usual conversation, and instead hearing your doctor pause and ask what you've been doing differently. Because something shifted. Not from a prescription, not from a drastic overhaul, but from a series of small, deliberate changes that finally started working together. That outcome is far more within reach than most people think, but only if you understand what's actually happening inside your body. The first thing most people get wrong is where they begin. For years, the common advice has been simple: eat less fat. It sounds logical, almost too obvious to question. Fat in the diet must mean fat in the blood, right? But the reality is more nuanced than that, and in many cases, that assumption leads people in the wrong direction. Not all fats behave the same way in your body. Some actively contribute to higher LDL levels, while others help your system clear it more efficiently. When you consume saturated fats regularly, something subtle but important happens in your liver. The receptors responsible for pulling LDL cholesterol out of your bloodstream become less active. It's not that your body suddenly produces more LDL overnight, it's that it becomes less efficient at removing what's already there. Over time, that inefficiency adds up. On the other hand, when you shift toward fats like those found in fish, nuts, and seeds, the opposite effect begins to take place. Your liver becomes more responsive, more efficient, and better at clearing LDL from circulation. What makes this especially important is that most people don't need to eliminate fat entirely. They need to change the type of fat they rely on. That distinction changes everything. Instead of focusing on restriction, the focus becomes replacement. Small, consistent swaps that don't feel extreme, but quietly shift how your body processes cholesterol over time. Another factor that often goes unnoticed sits right in the middle of many people's daily routine. It's something so familiar, so ingrained, that it rarely gets questioned. Coffee. Not coffee itself, but the way it's prepared. There's a natural compound present in coffee oils that can interfere with how your body manages LDL levels. When coffee is brewed without a filter, those compounds remain in the final cup. Day after day, they can influence how efficiently your liver clears cholesterol. It's not something you would ever feel. There's no immediate reaction, no sense that anything is changing. But over weeks and months, it can make a measurable difference. What makes this detail so interesting is how simple the adjustment can be. Changing the method of preparation, something that doesn't require giving up coffee altogether, can remove that hidden influence entirely. It's one of those small shifts that most people overlook, yet it has a clear and measurable impact. Then there's the digestive system, which plays a far bigger role in cholesterol regulation than most people realize. Inside your body, cholesterol isn't just circulating aimlessly. It's constantly being used, recycled, and repurposed. One of the key processes involved is bile production. Your liver uses cholesterol to create bile acids, which help digest fats. After they've done their job, most of these bile acids are reabsorbed and sent back to the liver to be reused. This cycle repeats over and over again, efficiently conserving resources. But certain types of dietary fiber can interrupt that cycle. When soluble fiber is present in the digestive system, it forms a gel-like substance that binds to bile acids. Instead of being reabsorbed, they're carried out of the body. That forces your liver to create new bile acids, which requires pulling more cholesterol from the bloodstream. Over time, this reduces the amount of LDL circulating in your blood. What makes this approach powerful is that it works with your body's natural processes rather than trying to override them. It doesn't depend on a single dramatic change. Instead, it builds gradually, becoming more effective as it becomes consistent. Foods that provide this type of fiber are often simple, accessible, and easy to incorporate into daily routines. The challenge isn't complexity, it's consistency. The same idea carries over into how protein sources influence cholesterol. Many people rely heavily on animal-based proteins, particularly red meat, without realizing how those choices interact with the rest of their diet. It's not just about the protein itself, but everything that comes with it. Saturated fat content, lack of fiber, and the absence of certain beneficial compounds all play a role. When some of those protein sources are replaced with plant-based options, several things begin to shift at once. Fiber intake increases, saturated fat intake decreases, and there may also be direct effects on how your liver handles cholesterol. None of these changes need to be extreme. Even partial substitutions can begin to move things in the right direction over time. Body weight and physical activity add another layer to the equation. Excess weight doesn't just sit passively in the body. It actively influences metabolic processes, including how cholesterol is produced, transported, and cleared. Losing even a modest amount of weight can lead to noticeable improvements in lipid profiles. It's not about reaching an ideal number overnight, but about shifting the overall environment within your body. Exercise contributes in its own way, beyond just weight management. Regular movement helps improve how your body processes fats, increases levels of beneficial cholesterol, and influences the size and behavior of LDL particles. Not all LDL particles are equally harmful. Smaller, denser particles are more likely to contribute to arterial buildup, while larger ones are less problematic. Physical activity can shift that balance in a more favorable direction. What's often overlooked is that these benefits don't require extreme effort. They don't demand hours in a gym or highly structured routines. Consistent, moderate activity is enough to start creating change. The key is making it part of daily life, rather than treating it as an occasional effort. Another layer that has gained more attention in recent years is the role of the gut microbiome. The community of bacteria living in your digestive system does far more than help break down food. It influences a wide range of metabolic processes, including those related to cholesterol. Certain bacteria can modify bile acids in ways that affect how much cholesterol is ultimately reabsorbed. Supporting a diverse and balanced microbiome isn't about quick fixes or isolated supplements. It's about long-term patterns. Foods that naturally contain beneficial bacteria can help create an environment where these processes function more effectively. Over time, this becomes another subtle but meaningful contributor to overall cholesterol management. There's also been a long-standing debate around certain foods that were once considered problematic. Eggs are a good example. For decades, they were associated with higher cholesterol levels simply because they contain dietary cholesterol. But the body doesn't operate in such a direct, one-dimensional way. When dietary cholesterol increases, the body often compensates by producing less of its own. For most people, the impact of moderate egg consumption on LDL levels is minimal compared to other factors, particularly saturated fat intake. What matters more is the overall context of the diet. What accompanies those eggs, how they're prepared, and what the rest of the day's meals look like all play a bigger role than the eggs themselves. At the same time, it's important to recognize that not everything labeled as natural is automatically safe or beneficial. Some products marketed for cholesterol support can carry risks that aren't immediately obvious. Without proper regulation and standardization, the quality and composition of these products can vary significantly. What seems like a simple alternative can introduce uncertainty rather than reducing it. Concentrated extracts, in particular, can behave very differently from the foods they're derived from. A substance that is safe and beneficial in its natural form may become problematic when taken in high doses or isolated from its original context. The body is designed to handle nutrients in balanced proportions, not in extreme concentrations. All of this leads to a larger point that often gets lost in the search for quick solutions. There isn't a single change that transforms cholesterol levels overnight. What creates meaningful, lasting improvement is the combination of multiple small changes working together. Each one contributes a piece of the overall picture. Each one supports a different aspect of how your body manages cholesterol. When these changes are consistent, they begin to reinforce each other. The effect becomes cumulative. What might seem modest in isolation becomes significant when combined with other supportive habits. Over time, this approach creates a shift that is both measurable and sustainable. The people who see the best results aren't necessarily the ones who do everything perfectly. They're the ones who stay consistent. They make adjustments that fit into their lives, repeat them daily, and allow time for those changes to take effect. Progress doesn't always feel immediate, but it becomes visible when viewed over weeks and months. Cholesterol is not a reflection of a single meal or a single decision. It's the result of patterns. And those patterns can be changed. Not through extremes, not through shortcuts, but through steady, intentional choices that gradually reshape how your body functions.